started second place off the grid because Tomase is doing more pit stops than us. Things look okay at the start of the race. And we're keeping up with the top contenders. But then we see as the race goes on, we are losing more and more time and we are losing positions. Would have been good if we were able to actually beat George Buns, but unfortunately we didn't at the end of the race. There wasn't much special about this race other than Tomase having the fastest car and he chose to do 6 pit stops instead of 3 or 2, so he dropped behind a lot and he had to make an extra pit stop at the end, which ruined his race. You can see before the race, Tomase had the fastest car, I think by a relative amount, and our car performance dropped to 5th place, but should be quite similar to all the other top contenders. You can see George Brun has a very slow car compared to us, but he was able to beat us in the race. And we can see we're not all that much behind Giovanni, only 17 seconds or so, but it's not possible for us to compete and get 5th place, and our race time is quite poor compared to others. But considering our best lap time is about half a second slower than Giovanni and George, and we finished right behind them is already quite good because we have the softer tire and using less fuel, so we should have an even better best lap than theirs. So it's about the driver, because our driver was quite good, that's why we're able to finish 8th. Finishing 8th only gets us 1 point in the standing, that's not much. Compared to our teammates, we did okay. We're only 35 seconds slower with a similar strategy. We can see based on the fastest manager in the same group, we were supposed to do 2 pit stops and potentially 3. But we actually chose 2 pit stops. We could have potentially beaten Giovanni and we would look very good in the standings. And if we finish 6th and gain some points, that would be very good. But unfortunately we didn't. And we increased the aggressiveness even more from the past few races, and we had the higher clearance. We went from 0 to 3, but our driver still only made 1 mistake, so that's very promising, and we expect to have more performance. And since last time we calculated roughly if we gain 0.03 seconds per lap over a race distance is about 2.5 seconds, and we know that the driver, whenever he makes a mistake, the time loss is about 3 to 10 seconds, and the average is about 7 seconds or so. That means for pushing harder, if we gain 0.12 seconds by pushing harder, then our driver will make up any time loss if he made any mistakes. And I think pushing harder would make him go a bit quicker, so it seems reasonable that making 2 or 3 mistakes, then you gain the optimum balance between not pushing and pushing. You can see the sponsor needs some attention, and it's asking us, do we think 24 races of sponsorship is good enough? We think that's quite good because it's quite a lot already, so we're just gonna say okay. And we can see that because Giovanni is focusing on only doing one sponsor, he's able to get his sponsor now and actually earn like 2 or 3 million more than us, because we're trying to do 3 at once and we're looking at long term. So next time, I think for rookie class, we only want to do just one sponsor so we can get money as quickly as possible, and with the extra money we can finish quicker and do a lot more different things with the money. Just like last time, we're also going to train the aggressiveness again. We know that aggressiveness is the main deciding factor between the driver's performance or not, given that he doesn't make much or any mistakes. So as long as the driver has high aggressiveness, then he'll do very good in the race. And we gained quite a bit of aggressiveness again, like 9 points or so, but we only gained 1 concentration back. You can see that we virtually have the best driver with some of the highest overall, but then we don't know what stats they have, but I'm thinking they probably have very high concentration. That's why we're lagging behind, because our driver is not consistent enough and he's making about 0.7 seconds of error per race, per lap. Looking at the car wear calculator, we need to change the gearbox, but we don't have enough car wear to do an additional test lap. And if we downgrade or upgrade the engine to do the test lap, then it'll be too expensive and we'll run out of money. From last time, we estimated that the gearbox will go up to 98% wear, and after the race it went to exactly 98, and we didn't have a technical error in the race with a car part breakdown, so that's very good. After we upgraded the gearbox, we still don't have the fastest car, and we're not even better than Marek's car. I think Marek upgraded many parts prematurely without wearing it all down, so he lost a lot of money. He only has $12 million more than us, but he doesn't have any upgrades and facility or done any testing, so that's very poor money management. Last time, based on the track characteristic estimation like downforce and tire wear, we converted to numerical numbers, so we can add them and look at the average values to see how many pit stops we do. I suggested that we should do 3 pit stops and had similar characteristics to Singapore, but after the race we found out the optimum is only 2 pit stops, not 3 pit stops. For Singapore it was 3 or 4 pit stops, And then I also looked at Uranga, Istanbul, and used these 3 tracks and compared to Brick, which we just did. And I adjusted the values a bit for the wear, downforce and overtake and also that stuff. And also this. And I added these 2 together to come to a conclusion. And then I adjusted all of these values so that it would actually fit that this track is 2 pit stops, this value shows it's 2 pit stops, and this value shows it's 1 pit stop and 3 pit stops. So we can be more accurate with the stuff. And I added a new calculation factor, which is the PHA average, the car points average, and it looks at majority of the car performance points to make the second decision. So first decision was based on just the wear, downforce and all of that. But second decision is based off the car performance points. And only by doing that, then we can able to actually meet these criterias and have the correct corresponding values for amount of pit stops. And it makes sense because if the track is more performance based and it looks at the car more, you need to do more pit stops and have softer tires because you gain more time. You can see this race which we're about to do is about 1.43, which is similar to Singapore. And based on some of the other track characteristics that we've done, 1 or 1.15 is 1 pit stops or 2 pit stops, and 1.25 is 2 pit stops, and 1.35 is about 3 pit stops. We're using the calculator tool. I will figure out that we want to do a free stop based on the track characteristic, and we can use soft tires and do 40 laps. And we also looked at the fuel required, and we already entered all the values into our calculator tool. We're going to give it 2 extra laps, just slightly more than 3% of the total race distance, and want to choose a 14, 14, 13 laps. We already calculated and got the fuel required. If you look at testing, R&D points come before the engineering points. I think the correct decision was to downgrade our facilities a few races ago, since we know everyone was very competitive. I couldn't make up my mind, and I was thinking that I might want to do testing in a few races later, and we figured out that we're only saving 1.5 to 3 million by downgrading the facilities. Should have downgraded the facilities soon, and what I'm going to do is just leave the R&D at the same level, because once we do testing, it converts to R&D points first, and then the more R&D points naturally comes more of the other car points, even if the conversion ratio is poor. So we're just going to downgrade the engineering and alloy to 10 because that's for power and acceleration, and we're going to keep wind tunnel to 12, a bit higher, because we're lacking in handling. And we can see the facilities maintenance dropped about 90,000 per race, so it doesn't seem all that much. At the start of the season, it would be better to have balanced car points research, but for long term, what we did was long term, because we know at the mid of the season it will be cheaper to have higher levels on the handling parts, and then we'll keep the power and acceleration parts at the lower level to save costs because it's expensive. But I didn't anticipate that it'll take until about mid-season and we still don't have very high level on the aerodynamics. So next time it will be mandatory to just have balance research or even slightly more handling based, because a lot of track is dependent on handling and it's the most important point to have. And then we're going to save about 90 times 8, maybe 700,000 from the facility downgrades, but we might lose out on 1 point in each category of power, handling, and acceleration after we do testing. But looking at our current car wear and our money, it seems like that it'll take about another 3 to 5 races before we're able to do further testing. That small jump in performance, especially near the end of the season, isn't necessarily going to make a huge change in the outcome. This race that we just did had the worst outcome because we're trying to fight for promotion at 4th place, and Adriano scored pole position, and all of the other people are already doing echo and saving money like Bruno and Marek, and our points gap is getting larger and larger to the top contenders, and it's getting more difficult. And at this point it seems like our dreams are crushed at promoting, unless, which is still relatively likely, that we can come back and score top positions often, then we can potentially promote. But many small imperfections at the start of the race and trying new things, cause last season was very easy, meant we didn't have good performance in the start of the season, and it's too late to catch up. At least we know Tomasi is potentially out of contention in promoting because he already has the fastest car and he's not gaining any points, and his pace was very poor this race, and there's another person out of contention, so there's competition. Q1 is rain, so I have to find the testing using rain tires. We're going to find a setup for the race. The wing and gear is 2 and 3 happy range out, and we already calculated the new values. Calculated the final setup, and we're going to find the wing split. Figure out that the wing split should be potentially in between 16 and 99. Going to try 86. And apparently the optimal wing split is not more than 98, because at 98 we have 999 front wing and we can't have more than 999. We're going to do Q1 with the low risk setting. Choosing the soft tire to do 3 stops. We're about 0.45 seconds slower than our best net time, so that's quite good. 2 seconds faster than Marek, which has a faster car than us. Potentially he made a huge mistake in qualifying, so that's what is a huge time gap. Qualified top 12 out of 261, and if we look at third place onward, we're only 0.7 seconds slower than third place onward, so our Q1 time is very good. And considering our driver, if he didn't make a mistake, he'll still have 0.6 seconds faster, then that would be phenomenal to be 0.3 seconds slower. I think in this game, the net time isn't necessarily just all about the car. It potentially has to do with the driver's skills. Since we've upgraded the aggressiveness from 0 to 30 in the past 3 races or so, and we know that aggressiveness is the main deciding factor between a driver's performance. The increase in aggressiveness potentially has lowered the best net time by a lot. That's why we're being able to actually catch up to the people even if our car has been slightly slower. I increased the car weight compensation from 0.56 to 0.8. Since the race we just did, it seems like at the start of the race we were doing very good, and then from middle of the race onward we are doing so poor. We entered the difference in temperature from Q1 and Q2, and we're using the wet to dry conversion because Q2 is dry. Entered the setup, and we have to enter the fuel. Note that when the tire weight drops below 15%, we lose some time each lap, maybe 1 to 2 seconds. But we also gain a lot of time if we have the higher fuel load for the first stint and we don't have to get stuck behind others for as long. So I think because it's only 2% less than 15 and Q1 temperature is a bit low, going to start with 15 laps and then do 14 and 13. We don't get stuck behind others, and that would make up for the time loss with the higher tire wear. We lose 0.2 seconds or so per lap. Then if we don't have to lose 0.2 seconds per lap by not being stuck behind others, then we'll gain time and do better by having the higher fuel load at the start of the race. Sometimes we might easily lose 1 to 2 seconds when we get stuck behind someone, depending on who it is. So it's relatively likely that we're going to make back the time even if we have the higher tire wear. I think normally the tire wear you lose 1 to 1.5 seconds, it isn't all that much. And then you also lose a bit of time by having the higher fuel load. Then we're going to gain that time back from the other stints because we don't need as much fuel. We're going to choose 15 laps, and then we're not going to boost, so you don't have to get stuck behind others at the start of the race. We have a phenomenal qualifying time, and we know Marek is potentially 2 seconds slower, and normally if it's only 1 second gap we don't have enough margin. 2 seconds we do have some hope of competing 5th or better. And if Marek is actually considering doing a 2-stop instead of 3 stops, then I think he has the wrong choice, because we looked at the calculator tool and we know that this race is going to be 3 stops to be the quickest. Normally, like what happened in the past few races and we qualified first place, normally we would expect 5th or better, and normally no one finishes so poorly. but it's mainly to do with because we're trying new things with our driver and our driver isn't all that good. But after the aggressiveness training, and considering he can have so much aggressiveness, 30, and not make more than 2 mistakes, actually this driver is very good. Just that we have not figured out that we can actually have such high aggressiveness. If we actually figured this out at the start of the season, then we would have dominated and it would be an entirely different story. And we had another shocking qualifying time. We're only 2.7 slower than the best, and we're top 12 again, and our overall is actually top 10, and we actually get displayed to everyone because we're top 10 quickest, but only 245 qualified, normally 1500 qualifies. If we look at third place onward, we're only 1 second slower. That looks very good because in Q1 we're only 0.7 seconds slower than third place, and in Q2 we're 1 second slower. I think this time is going to be our best qualifying time ever in our entire season. We're going to get the closest to all the top managers. I think in the past few races, because we have the higher qualifying risk, we could have potentially lost a bit of time in Q2, just because we don't see that our driver make mistake or not, because there's no reference. We swapped to doing the lower risk because our driver made a mistake in Q1 in like 2 out of the 5 past races. We entered the race setup and we entered the difference in temperature and got the results. We entered the required fuel loads while increasing a driver risk from 3 to 5. Because our driver only made 1 mistake last race, and we're only increasing it by 2 points because we're trying to get to the boundary just before he makes 3 mistakes, and we'll maximize our pace. We know that it's likely that even if we make 3 mistakes, he should still be gaining a lot of time by pushing harder, and potentially we want to do just less than 4 mistakes per race and he'll have the best performance. We entered the boost laps, and based on the calculation we already got the laps we need to boost. We've got the final settings finished, and we're not going to touch any of the defend overtaking risk because at race 1 we know that at 47 defending risk he'll make a mistake. We have higher aggressiveness, so we may actually need to reduce this risk to prevent him making the mistakes during defending or overtaking. We want to just leave it like this because he's probably not going to make a mistake.